guys, Michelle from OG Rose. I want to hop on and talk a little bit about the concept of being online. So something that I enjoy and appreciate from the village sessions, which I have referred to in the light episode, is that especially Kori Meloy, she will talk about being online with your body, with your getting your metabolism online. And I love that so much, because what I see in that type of language is to almost redeem the concept of being online. Like we so by default in our technological age assume that to be online is to be connected to the internet, right? To be able to use Wi-Fi, to be able to search something on the web, to be able to seek and find things through the internet, and to be able to connect through the internet. And the way her language is related to that term is that being online actually means to be connected and able to seek and find and do all the things, this language that I had for the internet, to be able to do those things with your own body, with your own self, with your own relations. And I think that's a really wonderful way to I say redeem the word or reclaim the word, because I think the word has become so tied up with the technological essence and our internet age. And what it kind of reveals is that we often assume that, in a sense, I don't know if it's a psychosomatic thing or just a psychological thing, but we feel like, okay, we're good if we can just be able to check our emails or go online or check something. Thank you, Paul. Check something online or be online, right? Be online. And so, but the risk of that is that we aren't really online with ourselves, with our own bodies, with our own sensations, with our own relations, because I'm not saying that relations through an online venue aren't real. It's just that we cannot lose sight of the fact that those relations can only ever be as fruitful and meaningful as they can be if we're first online with ourselves. And so, I just thought it was an interesting reclaiming of that word that I love that Kori does. How she talks about being online with yourself, you could also think about that as being in tune with yourself. And I wonder if that is something maybe in the age of like radio, that would have been more the language, right? Being in tune with, and how maybe the radio took that over that term, but it really meant to be like in tune and in sync with what your body and your heart and mind are showing you. And so, to be online, we want to be careful that it does not become that it doesn't supplant our real, how do I put this? Our real value, our valuation of being online with ourselves and with those in our immediate proximity, because basically, if we aren't able to if we always the thought is that if we're always defaulting to I'm okay because I can get online, right? I be online, and there's an issue if I'm not online. And no, don't get me wrong, I understand some people literally need to be online in order to have a job and pay their bills, and I get that, I really do. So I'm empathetic to that. But the concept of sort of like feeling like, oh, if I can't be on the internet, I'm not okay, right? Or something's wrong. What that may reveal is that we may already not be quite online with ourselves, but not be able to identify that that's wrong, because it's been, in a sense, supplanted by the technological essence of, okay, I'm online, so I'm okay. I can check my emails, I can check the news, I can go on YouTube, I can, whatever it is, right? I can get back to that message. And again, none of these things are inherently wrong. However, if we have sort of given that over as the way to be online and to be, in a sense, okay, well, not just okay, but well, thriving, functioning, then we may be overlooking the much more primary onlineness, if I can use that term, that is our onlineness with ourselves, that is important and informs the being online in the technological sense. And I think what can happen is, it's almost like the first things first, second things as well, a concept from C.S. Lewis, where if we're not able to be online with our own bodies, our own hearts, our own minds, what our bodies and our hearts and minds are showing us, what our relations around us are showing us, because a lot of our relations are going to show things about ourselves. Because, for example, children are mirroring, adults mirror. It's not just kids, adults also do the mirroring as well in their own way. And so basically, if we're not able to look at that, we may not really show up in the online space in the best way that we can. And we may lose both. Like it kind of dissolves the online and our online in the internet world, and our online with our bodies and with our immediate relations and with our relation to self. We can possibly kind of destroy both if we're not careful to put the first things first, which is being online with yourself, being online with your, and again, Kori comes from the background of, encouraging pro-metabolic healing, and so she'll talk about it in that way specifically. But yeah, basically, the whole notion is to be able to actually hear your body, understand it, be able to nourish it well, be able to work through certain beliefs that are related to how you nourish yourself in food, and certain tracks that you might give yourself related to your food and your body and all of that, so that you can get back to a place of actually nourishing yourself in a way that's mind, body, spirit, and that's also sustainable. So anyway, yeah. So that's the thing. Being online is thinking about it in that way, whether it relates to being, eating pro-metabolically. Why can I say that word? Pro-metabolically. Ooh, tricky, but I said it. Or if it's, and that'll slip into, because if, for example, with metabolics, which is also a very interesting term to me, because we talk a lot about these, this meta, right? And meta is a big technological essence word, right? For Facebook and Instagram and social media and VR and all of that. Well, the first meta is our metabolics, in my opinion, or at least that's one of the core fundamental biological meta processes is the metabolics. So it's very interesting in that way. And again, if we're outsourcing to the meta of technology, we may not always be, to use Kori's term, online with our metabolics of our bodies. And so then, in a sense, if we don't put that first thing first of the metabolics of our bodies, the online of our bodies, then we may end up losing the meta and the meta, right? The meta of the internet and the technology, and the meta of our bodies, because we're so out of touch, right? We're so offline actually with our bodies. We can be really online, and this is just phenomenologically true, or you can see how that can occur. That phenomenologically online requires you to be less in touch with your own body, because your attention is on a screen and the virtual world. So it's not as in touch with movement, feeding yourself, because you don't, and I don't know, psychosomatically, maybe people are being fed by the screen. This is where sometimes that dopamine comes in, and possibly even screen addictions. It's like this gimme of that those light signatures of the screen, and being online, feeling like, yay, I'm finally online with myself, is what the assumption is, but it's actually not with yourself. It's often with the vast ambiguity of the internet and the World Wide Web, but it's not necessarily being online with yourself first and foremost, your immediate relations first and foremost, secondly, and I only say secondly because you really, you can't necessarily, if you're not dealing with your own, what you can control in yourself, then you won't necessarily be able to have as great an impact on those around you either. And then, then you can go to the third, which would be the online with actually the internet and those in the internet world, which again can be very fruitful, but we certainly don't want to get things supplanted without our conscious awareness of that. But yeah, just to my point, and I don't know if I finished it succinctly, but the phenomenology of being online in an internet age is to essentially be actually a bit more offline with your body, with your own sensations, because there's the distraction of the online. So the online does its thing. And it does not always allow somebody. This is why people can be like sucked into something for 3 hours scrolling or whatever it is, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't even like eaten anything, or I was supposed to eat something and now I haven't even eaten anything. I've just been scrolling on my phone, or I've been, or even like in not just in the, you know, it's like, oh, I've been getting back to a bunch of emails. Again, I'm not saying these things aren't necessary to do, but it's just that there is a primary thing, and that is your body and yourself. That if that is not online, if we're not online with ourselves, then we are going to have a very difficult time, in my opinion, being online in a very fruitful, in the way that it could be very fruitful and thriving online with the internet way. I don't think we can necessarily get there if we're not able to first be online with ourselves, our bodies, our metabolism, all of the things, family dynamics, relational dynamics, our own belief systems, all of that stuff. Like, what are we actually online? What does it even mean to be online with yourself, in the sense that we don't always ask the question of what it means to listen to yourself. We kind of assume we know that, and therefore we don't hear ourselves because we aren't maybe slowing down enough to, again, establish connection so that things do flow and we can hear and we can see. Just like you think about a glitchiness of a Zoom call, right? It's like, oh no, it's a glitchy Zoom call. But we're having all of those glitchy moments with our own onlineness in ourself and our own body and our relations around us. But we assume that, and maybe this is the technological essence, where it's like, oh, it's the technology's fault, right? It's not that I'm not doing the work to get online. It's the technology's fault, right? It's not working. You're not working, externalizing it. And so, yeah. And also, we may not even be aware or understand that those glitches could be something we could ourselves take responsibility for and help ameliorate and resolve and neutralize, because we just think we don't really pay attention to that as much. It's like, okay, well, whatever about that, but I can get online. I can do my online stuff. And so we overlook the onlineness of ourself to our own bodies, our minds, our spirits, and to the relations directly around us. So anyways, I hope I finished the thought that I was saying there, but just wanted to reflect. I thought it was interesting to sort of dive in a little bit more onto the concept of what it means to be online. And I think just a funny little thought came to mind right now in terms of imagery. There is a way in which, a fish is online. A fish is like hooked on, and they're on a line, and they're being pulled somewhere. So I think it's interesting, that term reveals that there is always something kind of pulling us. What is it that we're allowing to pull us along, or that we allow us to, and not just pull us along, but I don't know, I'm trying to think of like maybe a redemptive thought of online, like maybe where instead of being a fish on a line, which would be kind of the dragged along by a technological essence that you're not really being conscious of, you're just slipping into certain habits of onlineness, but rather being on a line that you choose, right? A line that you walk, maybe a path. Line seems so reduced, right, and kind of restricting, but there is something about like that, being on a line of your own line that you draw, that you make, you create yourself. So maybe that could be the redemptive element, when you can actually be online with yourself. You could perhaps create your own line and walk it, or hold it, or use it as a thread, or something like that, versus just kind of being hooked on this line, being dragged to ultimately be consumed in our consumption online. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Thought it would be fun to get into a little bit of the wordplay and the concept. Again, thanks to Kori Meloy and the Village Sessions podcast for inspiring new and fun ideas. Again, I'm really grateful to think about online in a kind of redemptive way. And I say redemptive because I do think it's important and it matters to think about the onlineness we have with our bodies, our minds, our spirits, so that we can be online in a fruitful way. Okay, thanks so much and have a great day.